Growing up as a kid, yeah. All a nigga wanna have was a Burberry scarf and $3 in my pocket. Instead I got beat with a switch, but I don't give a fuck, but it's on my body. Scars all up on me, but I run around from.
What is up, everybody? It's JT Sportsman Max, you guys, with another video. This video, I am here with my Pittsburgh Steelers 2020 NFL record prediction. Going to be giving my record prediction for the Pittsburgh Steelers this upcoming NFL season. Before I get into it, make sure that you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. Below NFL videos and college football videos daily. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they went 8-8 last year, right? And a lot of people, for some reason, think that the Steelers are going to fall off the face of the earth because, for some odd reason, because Big Ben is coming off an injury. They don't think he's going to be the same. A lot of people calling him washed up. And it's just really weird to me that the fact that a lot of people think the Steelers are going to be an even more worse team compared to where they were last season, despite the fact that they won 8 games with Mason Rudolph and Devlin Doc Hodges, who started the season out on the practice squad and was the 4th string quarterback going into the season. So I think it's really strange that a lot of people think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be worse, although despite the fact that they barely lost anybody. Probably their biggest loss on offense was losing Ramon Foster to retirement and then losing Javon Hargrave on the defensive line. But other than that, this is pretty much the same team from last year. And then you look at the emergence of the young wide receivers like Dante Johnson and James Washington. Imagine what those guys are going to do with Big Ben fully healthy. Then you also draft Chase Claypool and this past year's NFL draft. So I mean, this should be a really solid team. So they started the season off on the road Monday night against the New York Giants. So this is a really tricky game because you could look at this game and be like, you know what, the Steelers are automatically going to dub the Giants. And it's easy to think that. But if you've been following the Pittsburgh Steelers for over the last few years, you know that the Steelers always have 1 or 2 games like this and they always somehow end up losing. They have no business losing, especially on the road. So this could be a really tricky game, but I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. The New York Giants don't really have that great of a secondary, and I think this would be a really good game if the run game isn't able to get going, because I think the Giants should be really good against the run this year. So Pittsburgh has to throw the football. I think this is a very good tune-up game. I don't want to call it a tune-up game, but I think this would be a really solid game to get Big Ben back into the flow of things, since the Giants don't really have that good of a secondary. So Pittsburgh should have a pretty easy time throwing the football against the New York Giants. Now the game probably will be a little bit close, because you know how Pittsburgh is when they face teams that have no business really losing to or being in tight games with. So the game could be close, but ultimately I think Pittsburgh pulls that one out. Now week 2, you got another. This is when the schedule gets really, really difficult. Like, Pittsburgh has a really tough schedule. A lot of these teams should be really good. So week 2, you got to face the Denver Broncos. Now the Denver Broncos are going to be a really good team this year. A really good team. I think they should end up making it to the playoffs, and they could compete for that AFC West crown. But I think Pittsburgh pulls that game off for the fact that they're playing at home. As you already know, Pittsburgh is one of the toughest places to win in all of the NFL. It's up there with Foxborough and Lambeau Field. Like, you just can't be any random team and go on the road and beat Pittsburgh. Like, most of the teams that beat Pittsburgh at Heinz Field are either playoff teams or Super Bowl contenders. So, I mean, the Denver Broncos, they're a playoff team, but I just don't think they're going to be able to beat Pittsburgh on the road. Now, if this game was at Denver, then I probably would choose Denver to win that game. Week 3, the Pittsburgh Steelers have another home game versus the Houston Texans. The Steelers should win that game because, as you already know, the Houston Texans have struggled with the Pittsburgh Steelers in the past, especially when they have to travel on the road at Heinz Field. And plus, we don't even know if Houston's offensive line is still going to be all that great. I don't even think Houston's offensive line has improved at all this offseason. So I think that's going to be a game that Deshaun Watson ends up running for his life. Then plus, Houston's defense has gotten significantly worse. So I think Pittsburgh should win that game. Now, week 4, they got to face the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans is a team that has also struggled to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers over the last few seasons. I believe the last time Pittsburgh played the Tennessee Titans, well, it wasn't, I think I'm getting that mixed up with another game, but the Pittsburgh Steelers have had a lot of success against Tennessee. I'm going to take Tennessee to win that game. I think Tennessee ends their struggles with Pittsburgh. I think they are on the road, and they do match up pretty well with Pittsburgh with how good they are up front. They have a pretty nice secondary as well, so I think the Tennessee Titans at home could give the Pittsburgh Steelers their first loss of the season. Now week 5, you got to face the Philadelphia Eagles. Once again, on the road, traveling to Pittsburgh. That's going to be another tough game. A really tough game. I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles to win that game. I think that Philadelphia has a really good team and have a really good coaching staff. And like I said, it's really tough to go on the road and get the win on the road in Pittsburgh. But if there is any team that could do it, it could be the Philadelphia Eagles, because the Philadelphia Eagles are one of the best teams in football, top to bottom. They don't really have a lot of holes in the roster. Week 6, the Cleveland Browns got to travel on the road to face the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is tough. I'm going to take Pittsburgh to win that game. Well, I'm going to take Cleveland to win the first game simply for the fact that I think Cleveland's a more improved team. I think Cleveland could also go on the road and beat Pittsburgh in Heinz Field simply for the fact that this is a divisional matchup. And I'm going to go ahead and say that Pittsburgh doesn't sweep. I don't think Cleveland's going to sweep the Cleveland Browns, so I'm just going to go out and say that they split the series. I don't really see the Cleveland Browns sweeping Pittsburgh, and I don't see Pittsburgh sweeping Cleveland neither. I also got Pittsburgh sweep. I got them beating the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Ravens win this first matchup because they're at home, but I think Pittsburgh goes ahead and they split the series as well. So I don't think Pittsburgh's going to get swept by the Browns, or they're going to end up getting swept by the Cleveland Browns neither. So I think they go ahead and split those series. So at this point, they have a 5-4 record. They got a Week 8 bye week, which is a pretty favorable bye week because that's pretty much the midway point of the NFL season. Week 9, they got to travel on the road to face the Dallas Cowboys. Every time the Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys play, it's always a pretty entertaining game. I want to take Pittsburgh to win that game. I like Pittsburgh a lot in that game, simply for the fact that Dallas has a really good team, but their defense took a little bit of a step back. They lost a couple of key guys, so I think Pittsburgh ends up winning that game there. Week 10, they have to face the Cincinnati Bengals at home. I'm taking Pittsburgh to win that game. Cincinnati is going to get terrorized up front by the Steelers' front seven. I mean, they're going to have a field day, and I like Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati is really improved, but ultimately, I don't know. I just don't think Cincinnati's going to be able to have a lot of success in the first go-around against Pittsburgh with how good their defensive line is. Week 11, they got to play the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road to Jacksonville. This could be a game that Pittsburgh could lose because you guys know how Pittsburgh likes to underplay to teams they have no business losing to. I already stated that early on. But I'm going to take Pittsburgh to win that game. Jacksonville should be one of the worst teams in the NFL. Hopefully, Pittsburgh's able to pull off that victory. Jacksonville always plays Pittsburgh pretty closely. Week 12 already had Pittsburgh winning that game Thursday night. I don't think they're going to get swept by Baltimore this year. Week 13, I got to play the Washington Redskins. Now, the Washington Redskins are really good up front, but ultimately, I think Pittsburgh's defense is going to be the deciding factor in that game. Now, Week 14, they get a revenge from the last year's matchup when they lost to the Buffalo Bills. They came really close to winning that game. They were a Devlin Hodges interception away from winning that game. I think Pittsburgh gets the revenge this go-around. I think Pittsburgh doesn't lose to Buffalo. I don't see Buffalo beating Pittsburgh 2 years in a row. I know Buffalo is a really good team and all, but I just think that Pittsburgh is going to be able to get the revenge the second go around, especially when you look at how close last year's game was last year. If Big Ben probably would have played in that game, I think Pittsburgh most likely would have won that game. Now, Week 15, the Pittsburgh Steelers are in the Monday night game. They got to go on the road to face the Cincinnati Bengals. I think Cincinnati beats the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like I said, Pittsburgh always has 1 or 2 games that you go on the schedule and you say, oh, they're going to end up beating that team. And what happens? They end up losing to that team. So I think Cincinnati could end up being one of those games that Pittsburgh underplays. They underestimate their opponent, or whatever Pittsburgh does year in and year out, that they lose to terrible teams. So I think they end up losing to the Cincinnati Bengals Monday night on the road in Cincinnati. So I think that could end up being one of those upset games that we always see Pittsburgh have. Week 16, they play the Indianapolis Colts. I think they go ahead and win that game. We already know Indianapolis has struggled over the last few seasons to beat Pittsburgh, and I got Pittsburgh winning that game. So ultimately, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers going 11-5. I think that's pretty realistic. A couple of these games could go either way. You could say Pittsburgh could beat Philadelphia. That's a toss-up game. You could say Pittsburgh could sweep Cleveland. I'm not overlooking that, but I just think ultimately with how good the division is, I think Pittsburgh could probably split with almost every team in the division. That's not a knock against Pittsburgh. That just goes to show you how good this division is. You also could say that Buffalo could beat Pittsburgh because you know Buffalo is playing that game at home, but I think Pittsburgh should be able to pull out that win as well. So 11-5, I think is a pretty reasonable record. A lot of people think Pittsburgh's going to go 7-9, 6-10. That makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, Pittsburgh went 8-8 with Devlin Hodges and Mason Rudolph. So I think it's outrageous at the fact that you get Big Ben back. And even though I'm not expecting Big Ben to, bring Pittsburgh back to the Super Bowl or anything like that. But what I am saying is that I think Big Ben is good enough to get the Steelers 2 more victories compared to what they had last year. So 10-6, 11-5, I think is pretty reasonable for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this is it for my Pittsburgh Steelers 2020 NFL record prediction. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comment section down below. Make sure that you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content. And thanks for watching.